Well, good afternoon.
Okay.
That's all Matt's about. Again. Still trying to figure it out. All right, let's try it now. That seemed better. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Welcome back, everybody. This is the third week of Get Money Smart. I know we've got some new faces. There's people online, plus we've got people live here. For those that are live, feel free to grab some ice cream and treats and whatever while you're here, and keep going back. So we've got plenty to go around. My name's Grant Black. I'm with the Economic Education Center here in the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise. That's part of the Plaster College of Business and Entrepreneurship. This is our annual event for financial education to reach out to our campus community. And so thanks for being a part of it. If you're new, so I know we've got some new faces in the room. If you're new, we would love for you to take this survey. That's a little, it's just a quick little quiz. It's just maybe 5 questions. So grab that QR code and fill this out for us if you haven't done this before. We would love for you guys to do that. I'll give you guys a second to scan that code. If you've done this before, you don't need to do it again. All right. Got some people scanning codes. All right, we got it. I'm going to bounce back a second. Just a quick announcement before we get started. Next week is our last week for the Get Money Smart series this year. And that is going to be investing basics. This is a session you're not going to want to miss. We've got 2 phenomenal finance students that are going to be presenting. And so if you're looking for just some great information about trying to understand how to really grow your money, I think this is going to be a really practical, informative session for you guys to check out. So don't miss next week. This is part of a large initiative that's going around all around the region called Money Smart Month. St. Louis and Lindenwood is a proud sponsor and supporter of that series. You can find lots of events that are still going on all around the community at moneysmartstlouis.org. So we'd love to see you out at some things there as well. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our amazing speakers for tonight or today, I guess I'm jumping ahead on it, that are going to talk about sustainable budgeting. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys, and I'll let you guys introduce yourselves and whatever you'd like to share. All right. There's your clicker.
All right, so does anybody know what that means? All right, good, we don't either. We'll see you. All right, so we're part of the smart money presentation, right? So we thought we would give a talk about sustainable budgeting. So just a little bit about the two of us. So you can go first.
So I'm Karolina Schneider. I'm an associate professor of management. Last fall, I got to teach a special topics class of responsible management, something that I've been passionate for some time.
And I'm Kim Ulrich. I'm an accounting professor. And along the lines, when I did my dissertation, I was doing some research related to an ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance, and also includes sustainability. So I really developed a passion for that topic while working on that. And so anytime I can get the opportunity to either push the ideas further or to share my knowledge about those topics, I really enjoy being able to do so. So that's really kind of what brought us to this. Karolina and I have been doing a couple of different presentations. So we did a project. She mentioned her responsible management class that she had in the fall. We did a collaborative project where her class did part of the project, and then she turned some stuff over to my class, and then we worked on it. And us doing that presentation together afforded us the opportunity to do another presentation together. And then last spring, we also did another presentation related to what was the, I don't remember the specific topic. It's part of the leadership series, and
Leading by example.
yeah, leading by example. So it was still another sustainability type topic. So that's really where our background is just really from a passion and interest in all of the topics related to sustainability. Because we have our little caveat here, we don't proclaim to be experts. So as we go through this, if there's any ideas that you have or things that you experienced or encountered, you're more than welcome to share them. We can make this as interactive as you feel comfortable interacting. And we just know that the limitations are around, trying to do good things with the limitations that there are in society as well. You have anything to add before I?
No, I was going to add too that I'm thinking about doing a study abroad trip to Iceland in the near future. That actually is potentially with Kim as well as Dr. Pellicetti there. Iceland study abroad. That we've done one in the past that had a sustainability aspect in it. So we traveled to Scotland, Ireland, and England. So your country represent, right? And we got to see a couple factories that were all about sustainability. So again, this is something that I've been involved with in the last few years and got a little bit more involved in the last 3.
All right, so to start our presentation, we thought we should at least give a background of what budgeting is and then define what sustainable budgeting is. Do you want me to mention that, or you got?
You're an accounting faculty, so I feel like it's going to come out better. But if you want to go with the budget, and then I'll go with the sustainable budget.
All right. So a budget is just knowing what we have, right? You're saying this is the income that I have coming in. These are the expenses that I have going out, and this is how I'm going to manage those things together. So here's a quote by Peter Drucker: "You can't manage what you don't measure." So by keeping track of those things that you're spending and keeping track of the income that you have coming in allows you to be able to measure those things. So on a sustainability side.
So there's really not a good definition of a sustainable budgeting. So when you actually Google it, you may end up finding things that have nothing to do so much with your topic. So this is more about smart budgeting. So applying environmentally conscious habits to the way we budget and manage really our finances. So really trying to make better choices, trying to buy less, trying to just really kind of, what would you say, stretch our dollar as far as we can go.
Yeah, and I always like to use the phrase vote with your dollars. So if you're buying from somewhere, you want to spend your money with somebody who is living sustainably or has the same values
And beliefs as you do.
All right, so this just starting point, we thought we'd have to be a little academic here, right? So this is a QR code for this budget. So if you are not familiar with what a budget should look like or where to even start, if you don't already handle and keep track of your budget, This was one that I found online specifically for college students. So you could Google college student budget template and this will come up. It actually, there's a link and you can download some things and then it would actually take you to a simple investing course as well. But I just wanted the gist of what was happening in the budget. So you can see at the top, you're just going to put the time period. When I do my budget at home, I do it a monthly basis budget. This is really looking at it on a semester basis and then taking that, and dividing it up. So you're going to look at, what your total tuition costs are that you're getting, and then you can divide it up, based on the time period that you have in there. So on the income, you probably can't see from where you are. So I'll just kind of go through a few of the things. If you do happen to get money from your parents, contributions from parents are going to include in there as part of the contributions. If you do have any scholarships, if you have any money coming in from part-time jobs, whatever financial aid that you have coming in, student loans, those kinds of things are all going to be part of that income bucket. And then of course, expenses, we're going to divide them up. And again, this is probably something else you can't see. This middle section here is about the fixed expenses. So those are going to be the same regardless of what changes. And then you also have some variable expenses. So your fixed expenses will be more, your tuition, that's going to be a standard fee. If you live on campus, your room and board, those kinds of things are all kind of part of that lump. So you would say, this is what I got in scholarships and loans and money from parents. This is what I paid out. And then this is what I have left over for my disposable income, or what we would refer to here as your variable expenses. So sometimes books are going to be included in there, but we're going to focus more on the things that you have more discretionary income, your grocery shopping, spending on food and entertainment, those kinds of things. If there's any travel, dining, those kinds of things are going to be what we're going to focus on. So these are the types of ideas for you to consider when you're looking at that. I know that when you're in college, having savings is probably not very, high on your priority list, or you're like, oh yeah, I've got an extra $3. What am I going to do with that $3? But what if you want to save up and just go on a spring break trip, right? So maybe you want to take some of that loan money that you got in the fall semester and keep it until the spring, because that way you can go to Florida or Cancun or wherever it is that you plan on going for spring break.
Or study abroad trip.
Yeah, or to take your study abroad trip next year, right? So again, same thing with entertainment. Sometimes, concert tickets aren't cheap. A lot of times you can't go to a concert here in town, so you might be traveling to go do that. So you might have to budget for those types of things in order to be able to get them to happen in your life at all.
And in addition to that, I also think of all the things you subscribe to, like how much is that Netflix every month? How much is Hulu, music and things of that nature. So
yeah,
always.
And you were mentioning something about that when we were talking about this. If you want to do the show of hands.
No, it's just a couple months ago, I ended up kind of taking a look at, because you don't realize how much you're actually spending every month, right? And then when you actually take a look at it, because in the past, I want to say about 10 years ago, and maybe some of your parents have done the same thing, I cut the cable, right? I cut the cord, and then I started kind of subscribing to all these different providers. And then I ended up with Netflix that's, $12 a month, and then Disney, and all of a sudden it's the same amount as the cable was, right? So these companies have gotten really smart, because we lose track when we do that, because we don't see a one total bill. So kind of paying attention to that, and so that entertainment can actually be a lot more expensive than you think.
Yeah, and then some of the other suggestions that we'll make as we go through this is maybe you want to be able to go to that big concert in March, and you're going to have to go to Kansas City in order to be able to do that. So maybe there's some things that you can do to save some money. So save a little bit of money on food, and we'll talk about some ways you could possibly do that. Reducing waste. So if you throw less food away, or throw, whether it's clothing or whatever, spend less money on those various things. And then you might be able to use that money for one of those other buckets, if you refer to that, the other discretionary items that you have. Depending on how far away you live and how much you spend on gas, carpooling may be an option. So that's another way you can save money to be able to save up to do those other things that you can do. So really the bottom line is this last bullet point that we have, just to measure what you do. Again, just that quote from Peter Drucker, you can't monitor if you're not measuring it. So just pay attention to what you're doing, how much you're spending on certain things. And if you want to cut back in certain areas so you can spend in other areas, it allows you to do that if you're really monitoring and keeping track of that. All right, so you want to talk about some of our
So-
statistics?
So some of the stats I brought, because this is something that we've included in several of our presentations about more sustainable ways of living and leading by example, was that what struck me the most was fast fashion. So I don't know how many of you had the chance to kind of research that a little bit and how much waste there is, how much we waste. So some of the statistics that came from all of these are legit websites, so legit stats. So 34 billion pounds of waste just in used textiles in the US alone. That's a lot of waste. Every second, one dump truck in the United States full of clothes ends up on the landfill site. And then only 1% of the used clothing. So any of you ever donated clothing or throw away your clothing? Happens quite a bit, right? Even I want to say it's less than 1% gets actually recycled into new garments. I want to say about 6% gets recycled into, sometimes they make stuffing out of clothing. It goes into other things, but into actual garments, it's less than 1%. So the waste is big. So again, this is an opportunity for us to cut down at the same time, saving the planet and also contributing to our budget.
So great, what can I do? I'm on a budget and I can't afford Patagonia, or I can't afford, those vendors that they follow these sustainable practices, but they're really expensive clothes, right? So there's some options that we have are to buy used. So I actually had a box of the different things that I bought because I felt like I couldn't make a suggestion to you about using ThreadUp as an organization if I didn't try it myself. And I had a whole box and I was like, no, I'm too self-conscious. I don't want to show everybody all the stuff that I ended up buying whenever I went through and was looking. But the outfit that I have on came from ThreadUp. So I did a search by, work clothes and jackets and skirts, and I found an outfit and I put it together and made it so I could wear it specifically for this presentation. So you don't have to go to Ann Taylor to buy their clothes right off the shelf. This is an Ann Taylor jacket. This is an Ann Taylor skirt. So whether to whatever brand that you want, you can search by brand. You can, pick what kind of clothing that you got. My daughter specifically wanted a pair of overalls. So I searched kids overalls and sure enough, a whole bunch of them came up and I picked a pair of overalls for her. She wanted a puffy vest. So I did the same thing. I searched puffy vest and I actually found a Patagonia puffy vest that I was able to get used whenever I went through this process. So it's something that's really, it's a great organization. They have tons of different locations, or it's all online, but the clothes, I don't know exactly where they store them. But whenever I did my order, I put it in you can check this box where they take it from all over. It is in the United States, so it's all in one location and they ship it to you in one box, so that way you're not getting tons of different shipments as well. So that's another way that you can minimize that carbon footprint by not getting tons of different shipments to you. And Karolina,
I use Poshmark. How many of you heard of Poshmark before? So there's a variety of similar websites. So it's really, I sort of became fond of it through the pandemic. So my goal was to, I had more time to kind of go through my closet, see what I no longer wear or can't fit into. I may have been eating a little too much through the pandemic. So long story short, through the whole 2 years, whatever I sold and was in my Poshmark my Poshmark account, those were the only funds I was able to use for other clothing. So I kind of kept myself just to that amount, and I was buying stuff. I mean, Poshmark allows you to, they will mail you a check if you want, but instead I just used that money and I was buying very gently used clothing from Poshmark. Have any of you ever bought something or sold something on this side? It's relatively easy. I do this a lot for my kid. He goes through a lot of stuff. You guys grow really fast from 0 to 16. So at the age of 8, he goes through lots of snow bibs and coats, and Poshmark made it really easy for me to buy things like Patagonia that last, they're better quality items that I can resell a year after when he outgrows it. So that's been my kind of go-to.
Yeah, and the one that Poshmark that she was talking about is more of like a brokerage type service. So they're matching those buyers to the sellers, and you would ship directly to somebody who is purchasing your items. Whereas ThreadUp's more of a, you would sell the stuff to them and then you buy it directly from them. So it's a little bit different scenario, but they're both, very similar. You're buying used, and when you do that, one, you're saving money, but you're also limiting all of that waste, because now the fashion industry doesn't think they have to keep making more new clothes, because there's not as much of a demand for all of that new stuff. Other places, we specifically list Facebook Marketplace or other local buy sell groups. I know I live in O'Fallon. There's an O'Fallon group. My church has a buy sell group. My subdivision has a buy sell group. And so those are always good. I don't know that anybody garage sales anymore, but there's the way that they kind of get the stuff is through these local buy sell groups. And so those are options. I had gotten when my grandma passed away, she had split up her china between myself and my cousin, and I was able to buy matching dishes that matched the pattern from my grandma, and I got it online for really cheap. So I got it through Facebook, and I wanted some Christmas dishes, and I was able to get some Christmas dishes through there. So those things are things that when you're shopping, you don't always think, oh, I have to go to Walmart or Sam's or whatever to get the stuff. You think of that used option as well. Does anybody else and in the audience have an experience with different places that you want to share?
I mean, it doesn't have to be clothing, because I think of college students, you also have to deal with like furniture and things like that. So where does majority of your stuff come from? The new predominantly? Yes, some no.
We bought a fair amount of sports stuff from like playing against sports or things like that. And things, that's good.
That's a great option. We've gone a couple times when someday you'll find out when your kids want to try things, and you're like, well, how vested are you really into this sport before I have to fork out a ton of money? So yes, for sure. Any other suggestions you guys have for signs that we should know?
These neighborhoods around here are like really popular for big sales and garage sales. Like pretty much every Saturday and Sunday, there's something. Just like that. Constantly.
And we had a speaker in class yesterday that had a franchise of 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And he basically, do you guys remember this? He talked about some of the items that they would pick up and they were able to resell. So you'll never know what you can find at a state that you can even resell for more value. So you have an eye for it and experience. So good for you.
You have to learn how to do that, right?
Yeah. Yes. He didn't give us enough tips.
All right. So is everybody tired of talking about clothing? So let's move on and let's talk a little bit about food. So you're the vegetarian.
So I'm the vegetarian here, so it's easy for me to say, and I doubt there's anybody in this room that can relate to my food. Okay, no, all right, that's okay. So I'm not saying that everybody all of a sudden should become vegetarian or vegan. I get that. But at least you can do maybe like meatless Mondays. Any of you have heard of sort of these type of initiatives? So try to eat no meat on certain days or reduce your meat intake. So this stat is from University of Oxford. This was actually prior to the pandemic, where if you all of a sudden, cold turkey, stop eating meat, you could save, more than $1,000. Now, through the pandemic, keep in mind the prices of meat have gone up. I want to say some of the ones I've seen in terms of like Aldi's meat have gone up by 20%. Costco meat have gone up 32%, poultry and things like that. Eggs have gone up 70%. Now they're kind of decreasing in price. So if you really think about it, 1 or 2 days a week when you can reduce some of your meat intake, can actually cost, can save you quite a bit of money. So.
And tofu is actually pretty good. So we've
Yeah. I tried to sell my husband on that, but he wasn't.
They wouldn't eat it every day, but I did give my husband and my daughter to eat tofu. So it's they don't like it every day. Oh, and another option though, if you are doing the reducing meat, doesn't necessarily have to be tofu, but there are pastas now that are made from like chickpeas. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the brand Banza. So if you're comparing Kraft macaroni and cheese to Bonza macaroni and cheese, the Bonza is going to be a lot more expensive. But if you're comparing Bonza macaroni and cheese to ground beef, then the macaroni and cheese is a lot cheaper. So you can, if you're looking at it specifically to get that protein intake, then that may be an option for you as well. So those are just things for you to think about when you're looking at it.
So, I mean, going along with the mac and cheese and the like with protein or without, but buying dry goods in bulk can make a big difference too. The shelf life is just much longer. So ultimately, if going with my next kind of a suggestion here are on taking advantage of sales. There's lots of apps. This one I use in particular is called Flip, where it gives you options from some of the local grocers of what kind of sales they're running at a time. So, they have that sale on, what is the brand again called? Bonza. And they may have good sales going on. You can stock up on that because, again, most of the time those items can last for about a year or so, right? So you can buy them for a little less than that. So it's a really good, I'll highly recommend this app if you're kind of looking to save some money by utilizing some of the sales in local areas.
Yeah, so then our next tip is to buy frozen instead of fresh. And another thing, since we did talk about cutting down the amount of waste that you have, if you had bought something fresh and you end up, you're not going to be able to eat it quick enough, the freezer is your friend. So you can take that bunch of broccoli that you bought and you can either cut it up and put it in a bag and stick it in the freezer, or you can stick the whole thing in the freezer by itself. And then when you're ready to eat it, it's still there. It's still, good, and it's nutritionally sound, and it's not moldy and disgusting. So if you do end up thinking that you're going to be able to shop it and buy some different things, just stick it in the freezer. So I had made some chili a few months back, and we didn't end up being able to eat it all. I still have one, and I found it last night. I was like, oh, there's still a container of chili in here. So, when I'm in a quick pinch for lunch, I could grab that thing of chili, and then I have lunch ready for work one day.
And I found out avocados are fine. It's one of those things I buy and oftentimes goes bad. So I found out we can actually freeze avocados as well. So it's possible. So.
Yeah.
Well, so I didn't know that was ever possible until I went to Trader Joe's and they actually had frozen avocados. And I'm thinking,
peel it first.
Yeah, but you have to peel it. You can't just put the whole fruit in the freezer. But yeah, you would have to cut it into tiny cubes and then freeze it in a Ziploc.
It doesn't turn around if you have to put the stone, the pit in there with it. But
Yes.
Is that the case with frozen?
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of things. You can put some lemon juice on it,
Okay.
or you can go with the pit in it. But if you do it relatively quickly before oxygen kind of takes over and turns it brown, you can freeze avocado and it can be good for 3-4 months. So it's just one of those things that, again, when the price of avocados went up, I'm like, I can't waste this. So again, you can freeze majority of items.
Yeah, and bananas are the same way. Peel them first and freeze them, and then they're great smoothie and
Ice cream out of it.
Yeah, there you go. So the other thing, so you don't have to worry about that waste, is to plan before you go shopping. So whether you're making a list or making a menu, I know I said at the beginning, I'm an accounting professor, so I'm pretty anal. We've got this calendar in our kitchen, and I make the list of the different activities that we have each day of the week, and I put our menu on there. It saves me from having the what's for dinner question all the time. But it also helps me to say, okay, on Wednesday, we've got to go from this activity to this activity. I'm going to have about 15 seconds to get dinner ready, so I can make sure that I've gotten food made Tuesday night. So all I have to do is heat something up on Wednesday, and it makes the process go a lot quicker. So that's another idea. And she was going to talk about
Yeah, and I'm an app person. I love apps. I have way too many on my phone. So I'm way beyond the storage limit of whatever it is. But I've used this app before. There's some free features on it. So it allows you to actually plan some meals with my dietary restrictions that I know nobody can resonate with. I have to do some meal planning because my husband eats meat and my kiddo does too. He's a steak lover. So at 8 years old, steak. I'm like, are you kidding me? But huh?
Yes, taste.
Okay. No, I get it. Yeah, can relate, never had steak in my life. But this really helps me to cut down on waste because again, it helps me plan meals for my other two, carnivores. So yeah, I would strongly recommend these app or something similar to that if you really want to go into meal planning.
All right, the reason why these are important, we have some more stats here to share.
So this is from Feeding America. I don't know if any of you heard of it. Again, all legit stats. So we've got almost 120 billion pounds of food gets wasted in US each year. 40% of all food in America gets wasted. So imagine buying food and 40% of it always goes to waste. That's a big number if you're thinking about other places of the world that are, starving. And then if you're looking at actual number in dollar amounts, that's 408 billion in food thrown away each year. So if you kind of divide this up into a population of US if anybody wants to do a quick math of 350 million or give or take econs. Yeah. I mean, that's a significant number per person. Or per family. So anything we can do to reduce waste, therefore saving money is helpful.
If you don't let anybody using that much and have that extra waste. So a couple of other suggestions that we came up with as we were putting together this presentation was just to try to find places that shop that are going to have, reliable and affordable prices. So we of course put Aldi, Trader Joe's, Costco, and Sam's, and we know with the caveat, that Costco and Sam's may or may not be applicable to a college student, because if you're buying something for yourself, unless you're looking just at non-perishable items, you don't really need to buy that in bulk and have it, for the entire semester. Although when I was in college, I used to buy a big old jar of peanut butter, just have it last the whole semester or so. And I would definitely go through it in a semester too. So you may or may not utilize those, but if you're buying things for maybe one of your student organizations, or if a couple of you have, share the things that you're buying and can go in together, that might be options for you too as well to help you cut the costs.
We don't know if Costco or Sam's would allow that, but we don't have to know. So yeah, Trader Joe's and Aldi Trader Joe's is my go-to. I don't know how many of you have gone to Trader Joe's. They're somewhat conveniently located, probably not to campus. I want to say the closest one is about 15 minutes away, Olive. That would be the closest one. I happen to go to one to Chesterfield, but nevertheless, their prices are significant. So if you're really on a budget, Trader Joe's, not a ton of variety of, you may only get one type of soup and things like that. I mean, it's not like you're going into Schnucks and it's aisles and aisles of stuff. The stores tend to be relatively small, but they tend to also be on the healthier side and relatively inexpensive. So, I mean, Aldi and Trader Joe's are a sister company. So,
yeah, and I've seen students in my Aldi before.
That's much closer to campus, so might be a better option for majority of you.
History.
But yeah, if you're on the budget, those are definitely go-tos. And then for fashion, I don't know how many of you heard of Quince or Veja companies. Veja makes shoes. So they're Brazilian shoes, but they meet all the different sort of sustainability certificates. And they're not the cheapest, but again, a good company to support. And Quince is another one that I found online a couple of years ago. A really neat company that sells majority of very basic sweaters and things like that are sustainably made under $50. So, and again, things that tend to last, they're better quality at a somewhat inexpensive price.
And there's lots, because there's new companies coming up. Right?
Yeah, and
that are trying to get that.
I'm sure there's one that's popping up. I don't want to put Patagonia because that's a given, right? Or similar, but those were the two that are lesser known that I felt may need some promotion.
Yeah, and if you can't afford it, there are food companies too that are doing that. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it's a chip company, and they take the fiber and stuff from the spinach and the fruit that they use in a juicing factory, and they use it to make chips. I can't for the life of me, I brought them in one time last year,
Yeah.
and I can't for the life of me think of the name of the company, but they're pretty expensive. I mean, it was like 4 bags of chips to save them. It's like $35. So, you know, it's not cheap stuff, but if you got things,
Yeah.
if your budget allows and you're just trying to just, again, vote with your dollars, then that's something that may be an option. A couple of other things, the tax credit, of course, I'm an accountant, I had to put something off here about taxes, right? So, and again, this may not be something that's applicable to you now as a college student, but when you get out and have your job and are starting to purchase things that are more expensive, it is something that you can consider. And so we just put purchases of products designed for energy efficiency. I just put new windows in my house and I'm gonna get a tax credit next year. It's not a lot, but you know, it's a couple $100, and so it's a couple $100 that I didn't have last year, you know? If you buy an electric vehicle, that's another option for a tax credit. I don't know what the tax credits will be by the time you're ready to make that purchase, but it's just something for you to make sure you're looking out for those types of things. So whether you're putting solar panels on your house or on any of those kinds of things, there could potentially be incentives from the government for you to do those things. So just watch out for them in the future. And for the new faculty that are here, you can, that might be more applicable to you now than for the students. And then just, and you know, trying to repurpose products is to, again, helps you save money. Did you have something?
No, I mean, just say trash bags to me. I don't remember if I bought any like trash bags for like backups and stuff. Most of my bags come from Trader Joe's when I buy perishable items. And those are the ones I use as like liners for my trash cans. So always find a way. Any of you ever repurposed something? Any examples? Trash bags? Or if you have a cat, I have a cat, so it's and a dog. So there's always try to find different, you know, uses for some of the things that aren't always recyclable.
You know, I always reuse both my mom and my mother-in-law widowed, and so it's, you know, if we're having some kind of a family dinner or whatever, I'll use leftover, you know, Chinese food containers and pack them up a to-go meal. So I'm reutilizing that. So then that way it makes a nice dinner for them, since neither one of them like to cook, since they're by themselves. And that way then you know, I'm reutilizing the something that would be something that could be stuck in the trash can.
And I do want to say, when I taught sustainability class last semester, I had some donations from companies. So if you want to grab a reusable bag, you can do that. I also have some silverware. Some companies now, if you do a takeout, they start charging. There's going to be an upcharge for utensils. So these are recyclable utensils. They're bamboo, so you can just rinse them and reuse them. And I also have some washable wipes. I don't know if any of you used these before, microfiber. So instead of spending money on cleaning stuff for your face, these only require water and removes your makeup or oil, whatever you need, stuff removed off your face. So if you want to grab any of it, this is, you can start today.
We've been using those
Going green.
double bags.
Mm-hmm.
Those have been working.
Produce bags and stuff, yeah. That's another.
Yeah, just forget to grab them. I mean, so I have like those, probably have like 5 bags of them in my trunk, but for the perishable, like vegetables and stuff, I want to say I have 2 bags and I always forget them because I wash them. So.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
you know, they don't
we do
smell
that
like
too.
onions and garlic.
Yeah, we will wash, kind of reuse them.
That's a great idea.
And especially if you're going to the farmer's market to buy your produce, load them up in there. So, you know, we're talking about this in terms of budgeting, and you're like, okay, so what do I care if I'm, you know, buying I'm not buying anything. I had already purchased the thing. Why do I need to bother reusing it? And this is really the quote that stood out to us related to that. So there's no such thing as away. When we throw anything away, it must go somewhere. So even though it's not in your house and you're taking it to the dumpster, and that they're taking it, you know, wherever they take it to the landfill, it's still there. You know, so if we can do things to minimize waste, we're making society better for the future, and for the future generations. All right, so we got a couple of other quotes to conclude with. So Yvon Schoner, he's kind of my hero. So he's the founder of Patagonia, in case you're not sure who he is. So he wrote a book called The Responsible Company. And that's actually kind of where the idea was. It started for me on my dissertation topic and my sustainability journey. So to do good, you actually have to do something. So doing nothing is not really an option, especially in today's day and age and where we are, because you guys are young enough, and when you have kids, society is going to be a problem, and if we don't try to do something. Another one?
No, go ahead.
All right.
You found it. So I'm not gonna take credit for it.
And we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. So these are just kind of ideas for us to take with us. So we're thinking about it, of course, from a budgeting standpoint, how we can save money, but and then be able to utilize the money that we're saving in other things that we want to have and consume. But we also can do things to help benefit society in the future as well.
And also develop healthy habits, because I feel like we're pretty good in Missouri in terms of how many of you worry about water conservation. Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Rain barrels. Yeah, legit, at rain barrels.
Love it.
Water plants using flush toilets. First.
That's amazing. I was not, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, you get a reusable bag.
But I mean, if any of you happen to come across any articles from California, right, about how they have to preserve water and electricity and things like that. I mean, that's going to be our future regardless where you are. So developing these habits, trying to cut down on some of the things we do, it really does make a difference. So.
All right, well, that's everything that we had.
Why don't we open it up to
Does anybody have any questions or suggestions or anything that you either do in your life that you want to just share, or just any questions for us that you want us to address anything further? Go ahead. What if you're a picky eater?
I am a picky
She's
eater.
a very picky eater. Ask her.
And that's why I love Trader Joe's. I'm gonna say it on camera. Clearly, I am big fan of it. There's really very few things that I bought there that I didn't like. They also give you an option if you are not sure. They let you try it. They will open a bag in front of you and let you taste it, or if it's something that you need to cook at home, you can bring it back if you're not satisfied. You can do that at Costco. Probably a lot of retailers do. I just don't know how many people really exercise that. But for Trader Joe's, they've been awesome about that for me. At least I've never had any issues. Sometimes I even forgot a receipt. It's never been a problem. And sometimes up front, they will let you taste stuff. So yes. Taste test, yes. And they're perfectly fine with that. So for picky eaters, it does make a difference. I don't know if that helps, but.
Well, that does. Oh, I guess once you find your favorites, then you just buy the same thing.
Yeah. It does get boring over time, and then you go into something else. Like me personally, or my other two meat eaters.
How about you and then your meat eaters?
So I do like tofu. They have really good barbecue tofu that you can eat. This may gross some of you out. Cold or warm. Yes. So it comes in little packages. It's already nice flavor. It was teriyaki, not barbecue. I'm sorry. And they have a really good frozen falafel. I feel like I'm speaking a different language now. And I like their hummus a lot. Their lettuce section is really good. Their pears are really good. And what else do I buy at Trader Joe's in large quantities? A lot of frozen foods. I buy quite a bit of frozen foods over there. So frozen broccoli. And for my meat eaters, they have like teriyaki Korean bits, or I don't know what they're calling it. It's some rib stuff. I have no idea. I don't make it. I just buy it and put it in there. And then chicken pot pie. My husband, not me. I would like to point that out. And just thinking, what else do I buy at Trader Joe's that they really like? Salmon. So my son really likes fish, so he's my fish eater, so I buy majority of fish products from Trader Joe's as well, fresh or frozen. So, and they have good wild caught Atlantic salmon, so
They have really good Japanese fried rice.
they do have really good, you really taste that.
Edamame.
Yes,
And it's hard, sometimes you can go in and Chinese fried rice, separate Japanese. It's hard to
Japanese,
get in it.
Japanese fried rice is really good. Their vegetable fried rice is really good. Their chicken fried rice, according to my other two, is really good too. So yes.
What things do you recommend when like, because like you're in college and like budgeting is like very like, just like fluctuating so much because there's just so much that's changing and so much that you're like slowly like taking more responsibility on, like what recommendations do you have as you like kind of head out of college and actually like create more of a stable life and like kind of start functioning as like a smart budgeting adult?
I would say to set your goals, kind of at the get-go. Because both of I have two sons that are out of college, and I'm sure you've seen the stuff in the news about they're not sure whether they're going to get their student loans forgiven or not. Well, both of them have been saving for that, so they haven't made any payments because like, what's the point if it's in deferment? But both of my sons have enough money that when the government says, okay, you have to start paying back your loans, they can pay them off in bulk. They can, just get them paid off. So I would say as long as you know what your goals are, then you can start putting the money away either for those kinds of things. If you know for sure you want to buy a house, even if it's $10 a month, put that $10 a month towards your house, that's house savings. Because then whenever you get a better job or, pay off a different bill, then you can say, okay, well, now I can take that extra $50 and put it in there. I can take that extra $100 and you can start building it. And one of the things that I do in my budget, and I know, again, I'm an accountant, so I'm really anal, is I have like my savings balance at the top, but then I have these little buckets. This is for my vacation because we're saving up and we're taking my whole family and kids and daughter-in-law and all that stuff. Everybody's going and we're going to go to Universal Studios. Well, I've been saving up for this trip for 3 years, so I put that money specifically in that account. And so that way, when I needed new windows, I didn't take from my Universal Studios money. I took from a different, so I had all the stuff and I keep track of it separately that way. But it's based on my goals and the things that I want to spend my money on. So you just have to really be specific, and Excel is great, great tool for that. And I think that one that we showed you, you can download that in an Excel format, and then that way it can be a starting point for you. Anybody else?
Someone had a comment online just from some earlier discussion, just when you guys were talking about some of the fashion things, saying they had bought all of their new clothes, work clothes on Poshmark. And they mentioned something when she was younger that they would do clothing swap parties.
We talked
That's
about
a lot of fun between friends and all that. That's pretty.
Yeah, hand-me-downs are great, even as a grown up. So.
Yeah, the only thing now with Poshmark you gotta watch is that it became sort of like the part of the gig economy. So the government has decreased that threshold of when they're gonna tax you on the amount of money you've made. So yeah, in the past it was $20,000, then it was 10, and now they reduced it to 600. So if you sell more than $600 worth of merchandise on Poshmark because you're cleaning out your closet, you got some handbag from a boyfriend back when, and it's worth something, you can actually be taxed on it now. So gotta maybe do some what is the site you use? I'm sorry. ThreadUp, and a little bit of Poshmark. So you may need to diversify all your sales. Yeah.
Could you use eBay?
You can use eBay too, but it's all gonna come down to the same sort of how they're tracking how much money you're making from all the sales.
Other questions from anybody? Comments?
Well, thank you so much for coming. Did you have some more like housekeeping?
Yes,
things
yeah,
that we
little
need to talk-
housekeeping.
Okay, turn it back over to you then.
Oh, you had a bunch of sources here. You
Oh,
forgot
yeah,
to share
sorry.
your sources. So this is the most important thing. Hey, this was fantastic.
You're afraid that we played.
This was super practical, very informative, great takeaways for us to, yeah, actually apply things. So this was wonderful. So tune in next week for more of the same. Just before everybody goes, I just want to mention quickly, if you're interested in learning more, just some practical personal finance kinds of things. How do I create budgets and why is this stuff important and how do I better manage my money and try to make better financial decisions? A great place to go dig a little deeper is an online resource, Common Sense Economics. And you can go take a kind of little mini course, practical personal finance. You can earn a badge. That's awesome for just sticking on resumes and that kind of stuff. Doesn't take very long. It's completely free. And you can just scan the code or go to the link. The slides are up on the Get Money Smart webpage, so you can find them from each week, and this is in all of the slides. So if you can't grab it right before we're done here, you'll see those. There should be videos of each week's session that are being posted, so you can kind of go back and be like, hey, I'd like to listen to that again. You can, what was that site they mentioned? You're able to go back. All right. One final thing, particularly for you students that are here. We need you to take it. Anybody that would like to, please give your feedback. This helps us just provide things that are better for you all, that's more informational and informative and helpful. And so please do the exit survey. You can go to the link here. If you're online, just do the QR code so you can grab that off the slide. Every student that's getting extra credit or some kind of, incentive or something needs to do this, because we're going to provide your name that you enter here based on your feedback to your professor so you can get the credit that you deserve. We appreciate you guys participating and being a part. So make sure you do that. We've been trying to do some few giveaways as well. So we kind of we've got some things up here. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and wrap up, and we look forward to seeing everybody next Tuesday. Thanks, everybody.